Hi, my name is Masaurus Rex, and I'm here to give you a long-awaited beginner's guide to Skyweaver. I've been playing and streaming the game since October of 2019, and while I do not have any tournament wins and am far from being the greatest player, I do climb to Master or Grand Weaver every season and can certainly help you learn to play. This series of guides will be a very in-depth beginner's guide, and I will assume you have very little knowledge or familiarity of card games and how they are played. If you have more experience with card games, my guides will still be useful to you as there are some mechanics that are more unique to Skyweaver. If you have never played a card game before, I do recommend that you read the How to Play guide on the Skyweaver website. My guide will not cover things like account creation and starting up your wallet. If you need help with that, you can also check that out on the Skyweaver website. My guide will also be available in written format on Reddit, and all of these things will be linked down below in the description. Going forward, my guide will cover the following topics. We will start with an overview of the Skyweaver interfaces, cards, and game modes, an overview of heroes and prisms and understanding the card phrasing of the game. Then we'll go over the core game mechanics, the attachment system, enchantments, and out-of-decking/conjuring. Then I'll actually walk you through a sample game and explain every decision I make and just give you sort of like a general rough guide of how a beginner should be approaching the game. And finally, we'll go over some deck building for beginners. The last part of the guide is completely optional. I don't think you really need to get into deck building if you don't want to, if you're just happy net decking. But I want to offer it there just in case there are people that would like to get into that. So to start, this guide will be super basic and go over things like the menus and card types. But if this is something that is too basic for you, then I suggest that you just move on to part 2 of this guide. Skyweaver is a free-to-play digital trading card game, much like Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra, and Magic the Gathering. Currently, you can play in browser, on mobile, or there is a downloadable file for computer use. Some of Skyweaver's mechanics are similar to that of other card games, and I will provide comparisons for easy reference throughout these guides. Skyweaver, in my opinion, plays most similarly to Hearthstone in the sense that each player has a hero and players alternate turns. There are no ways to play on your opponent's turn, and no spell speeds such as burst or fast in Runeterra or instant and sorcery in Magic. Let's first take a look at all the menus before we get into what the game is actually all about. So if we start up here where you'll see that your username is and your sky tag, you can actually click this and it will bring you to your profile or your wallet. So here you can see your username, your sky tag, some basic settings, all of the cards that you own, your wallet, and of course your statistics. You can also see things like your activity, your match history, and your overall stats of the game. Okay, so if we navigate back to the main menu by clicking up here, you'll see that there are also some other icons over here. So this is the library. This is where you can see all of the cards in the game. You can see cards that are yours, or you can just see all of the cards, or you can even look through locked cards. There's also a way to sort cards. You can do it by mana cost or by power. And there are also card filters that show you things like what prism the card belongs to, the card type, elements, traits, triggers, mana cost. There are many different ways to sort through your cards. And finally, you can look at the types of cards that you have, like basic silver or gold cards. But we'll get into all of this way later in the guide as well. There is also a search bar. You can search for pretty much anything, including card names, but also card text. Clicking on any card will bring you to this interface. You can see basic information about the card, market information, we'll get to that a little bit later, the full art, and any related cards. If you scroll down, you can also see popular decks that use this particular card. If we navigate over here, this is your deck selection. So this is where you can see all of the decks that you have made, and this is where you can actually create decks. So if we click on Create Deck, you can see that you can pick the hero that you would like to play, or you can import a deck string. You can just copy and paste it and it will load up a deck for you. If you navigate over here, these are ranks. This is where you can see the player leaderboard in both game modes. So there's a constructed mode and discovery mode, which we'll get into really soon. The colors of usernames are based on the community crystal they have received. Community crystals rewards given to alpha or beta players, and there's more on that in the description below. You can check out people that are in the different ranks. You can even check out the rankings of your region. And there's also a deck leaderboard. So you can see what decks have the highest win rates, and you can directly build them and save them if you would like. And you can also sort between the different prisms. If we click over here, this is the market. So this is where you can buy and sell cards. So if we click over here, these are the cards that you could buy. You simply click on them to add them to your order, or you can look at sell, and I don't really have anything to sell. And much like the library, you have the exact same filters to look through and sort through any cards that you would like to buy. You can purchase individual cards, but you can also purchase decks. And finally, you can also see a transaction history. If you click on this, it simply opens up your wallet. So now, if we click play, it will bring us to our game mode picker. So if we click on this little drop-down menu here, we can pick the game mode that we would like to play. We can play ranked, we can play conquest, we can practice versus the bot, we can play a private match with a friend, or we can play the tutorial. So we'll get into more about these game modes later in the guide, but for now, these are all of the menus. So why don't we move on to card types and how you can acquire cards and start playing the game. At the time of writing this guide, there are 510 cards in Skyweaver. You may have noticed from the menus that there are different card types. In Skyweaver, there are 3 card types. There are base cards, silver cards, and there are gold cards. There is no difference gameplay-wise between the card types, and the card type does not indicate how good or how bad the card is. Base cards are simply cards that can be unlocked for free by playing the game and are untradeable. Silver and gold cards, however, as we saw, have their respective colored borders, and they can be bought, sold, traded, and transferred between other players. Unlike other card games, there is no crafting system and no card packs. Also, unlike other card games, Skyweaver is actually a singleton format, meaning that your deck can only have one copy of a card, with some exceptions that will be explained in later guides. If you want to buy a card or a particular deck, you simply buy them directly. There are no rotations or limits to the cards you can play. All cards are permanent and can be played in any game mode. The devs only plan on adding cards to the game, so you don't ever have to worry about cards being unplayable. The only changes that will ever happen to cards are balance changes. So let me just give you a quick summary of how you can acquire each card type. Base cards are unlocked for free by playing Skyweaver. Every time you level up, you receive a base card depending on the hero you are playing. There is no other way to acquire base cards other than leveling up. Every time you finish a match, you receive 20 experience, and if you win a match, you receive a bonus 30 experience, for a total of 50. There is currently no level cap in Skyweaver. You do not need any cards to start playing Skyweaver, since there is a discovery mode, which we will get into really soon. And if you want to know how long it takes to unlock every card, you can read my prior post on that in the description. Silver cards can be obtained in a few ways. You can buy them directly from the market, or maybe a friend is nice enough to gift you some. You can also make trades or purchases with other players. If you rank in the top 250 players, you receive a weekly reward of silver cards depending on how high your rank is. Skyweaver seasons are 4 weeks, and after each season, the ranks are reset. Please note that you need to rank in the top 250 overall, not within a particular rank such as Scholar or Prophet. Lastly, you can obtain silver cards through the Conquest game mode. Gold cards currently can only be obtained in 2 ways. You can buy them directly from the market or other players, or get them yourself from the Conquest game mode. It is absolutely not necessary to purchase any cards, and every card can be unlocked for free by simply playing Skyweaver. There are currently 2 game types, Constructed and Discovery. There are also 2 game modes, Ranked and Conquest. You can play Discovery or Constructed in Ranked mode, similar to other card game competitive modes where you're matched against other players of a similar rank and climb the ranking system. There is currently no Casual mode. The Constructed mode is pretty self-explanatory. Much like any other card game, you pick a deck that you have, and you play against another player of a similar rank. You do require cards to play this game mode. If you own at least 1 card and make a deck with it, you will be able to play Constructed. The remaining cards in your saved deck list will automatically and randomly fill with unique cards depending on the hero the deck is built with every match. Discovery is a random game mode. When you play a Discovery game, you receive a randomly generated deck dependent on the hero that you chose. Your opponent also receives a randomly generated deck dependent on the hero that they chose. You do not require cards to play this game mode, and it is recommended that new players play this game mode first. The randomness, however, is not a true random, and it is more of a smart random, meaning that you will not receive decks that are all 1-cost cards, for example. Decks are generally generated to have cards to play in the early game, the mid game, and the late game. This game mode is also balanced by tweaking the appearance rates of certain cards, and you can read more about that as well. Conquest is a win streak game mode for the purpose of winning gold cards. As of patch 100, they've removed Discovery from Conquest. In order to play, you need to pay an entry fee of either 1.5 USDC or a Conquest ticket that can be bought directly, or you can exchange a silver card for a Conquest ticket. When you begin a Conquest run, you receive random awards depending on how many games you won. When you lose your run and have to start over. If you lose your first game, you receive no reward. If you win once, you receive 1 silver card, effectively breaking even. Every week, a new rotation of gold cards are available to win, and at the end of the week, those gold cards will never be available again. Do note that this game mode is very difficult. It is really not recommended that you play this mode until you have a very high win rate and a very advanced understanding of the game, otherwise you could be wasting a lot of money. This game mode is also not ranked, and you can end up playing against top players. For more information on Conquest, please read more about it in the description below. Now, let's take a look at some cards. There are 2 main card types in Skyweaver, spells and units. If you take a look at this spell here, all spells have a printed mana cost. They have a name, element, an indication that it is a spell, their prism, and their card text that indicates what the card does. If we take a look at unit cards, they also have a mana cost, a name, an element indication, and an indication that they are a unit, a prism symbol, and also their own card text. But you will also notice that units have a power stat and a health stat. A unit's power indicates how much damage it will do to the enemy hero or to another unit. A unit's health indicates how much damage it can take before it will die. We will get into card effects in the next guide. In a game, you can play as many units or spells as you have mana for. Now that you're familiar with the menus, know all the card types and game modes, I recommend that you actually take a look through the library and start getting some familiarity of cards. You should also play through the tutorial. Even if you have experience with card games, I would still recommend playing through the tutorial since there are some mechanics that are unique to Skyweaver that are introduced. After that, I recommend you play against the bot. The nice thing about the practice mode against the bot is that there is no turn timer, so you can take your time reading cards carefully and learning to recognize them. When learning any card game, the first thing you should do is gain familiarity with the cards, and there is really no easy way to do this other than repetition through playing. And that's all for this guide. Let me know what you think below and if you have any questions. In the next guide, we will dive into prisms, heroes, elements, and learning how to read cards and understand their phrasing properly. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe below, and follow all of my social media.